Hi, Brett.
Gene, how are you?
I am cold. It is cold here on the coast.
I know it is. It's cold in Alabama too, at least, as cold as
Woo.
it can be in Alabama. About 55 today. I've got my 70s look on. The only thing to make it better is a black turtleneck underneath the cords.
I have my black turtleneck on because it's unusually cold here in South Carolina, where usually we've got 80-degree high humidity, but boy, we've got a cold streak going on.
That's
But
true.
I guess we're kind of going to the holiday season and the Christmas season, the shopping season, and that leads us into our topic for today.
Don't it though?
I know, right? So it's, here we are celebrating, or not really celebrating, but raising the awareness around different threat and emerging threat types during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so today we're going to be talking about, Christmas for cybercriminals and refunding fraud.
Yep. Yes, we are. And it's October. So we should be talking about Halloween, but we've got that hybrid film, The Nightmare Before Christmas. And I like to think there's a nightmare before Christmas for all those merchants and retailers out there when we're talking about refunding fraud, because let me tell you, it's going to eat them alive. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, tell us exactly what refunding fraud is.
All right. So refunding fraud, there's a few techniques that actually get that to be successful. The idea is that a customer orders a product. He gets the product in, and then he can claim the product, it didn't show up. I know the tracking information says it showed up, but it didn't show up. So that's number one excuse. Number two excuse, you can say, the box is here. Yeah, the box that the laptop is supposed to be in is here, but the laptop ain't in a box. So that's the second excuse. The third thing you can do is you can actually notify the company that, hey, I'm going to return this for a refund. And you can manipulate the return label to make it appear that the item has been sent back for a refund, but it's not. So that's really nifty right now. And there are services on Telegram and on the dark web that charge anywhere from $6 up to about $25 that will manipulate or change that return label for you, where you get to keep the item and also get your money back. So those are the top three things. But there's another thing that's going on too.
What's that?
Well, what's really interesting right now is the insider threat. That's what's really interesting to me. We've got insiders in all the shipping companies. We've got a lot of insiders at merchants and retailers as well. And we've been seeing this for a while, but really right now during Christmas season for fraudsters, we're seeing the insider threat really ramp up right now. We truly are. You're seeing in the past, we've seen that some customer service agents have actually sold access to the customer service panel to fraudsters. We've seen some inside shipping insiders and shipping companies that have caused merchandise to perpetually been lost in a loop. So you continue to check it, and the item just bounces back and forth between one destination station and another forever. And the thing about it is if you think about these three reasons, all right, and if you'll show the slide deck that I've got up,
yeah,
I'll walk through a couple of things too while we're at it. So
because I'm really interested in what the chatter is right now on the dark web around refunding fraud.
So I'm just going to show you a couple of slides because they're kind of interesting. So this of course is the Arkose slide. Hi, I'm with Arkose, Chief Criminal Officer. Moving right along, we've got, do you want a guitar for Christmas? If you do, they're offering to defraud Guitar Center for up to $8,000. And you get to keep the guitar, you get to keep the amp, whatever you want to keep, and you get your money back. And they charge anywhere, I think this is 25% is what they charge for that. You can go, and there's all kinds of these. You can go ahead and get rid of that slide deck, Gene. I just wanted to show kind of a representation because on Telegram, there are about 1,600 different refund channels and people who are offering refunds. Because what you see, and I've talked about this before, Gene, we see time and time again that fraudsters are not sophisticated. They don't really know what to do with bots, with man-in-the-middle attacks, even with refunding fraud. They don't know what to do. But guess what? You don't have to know, because these days we've got cybercrime as a service. Someone's wanting to get some nice Christmas gifts. What do? Well, they've read about refunding, but they don't really know how to do it, or they're not confident enough. They're scared it may not work if they try it. So they can go on Telegram, find someone like this guy called Rec, pay him anywhere from 10 to 30% of whatever the order total is, and Mr. Rec will make sure that you get to keep the products and you get your money back at the same time. And they've got you can go ahead and get rid of those slides, Gene. I like my big face on the screen as it is. So actually, I think I can get rid of it. Let's see. Oh, I can. There we go. There we go. Oh, I'm happy now. There's going to be people out there that say I have a face for radio. I don't care. We're talking about fraud today. As I was saying, oh, we're in rare form today. As I was saying, you can go on Telegram. You've got like 1,600 of these refund vendors. You may not know how to do refund fraud. You may not be confident enough to do it, but they'll do it for you. And this is cybercrime as a service. And this is the low level that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You talk about as a service, it ramps up into phishing attacks, into the reverse proxy attacks like we're seeing with Evil Proxy, into bot attacks like we mitigate against every single day. So it does all this stuff. And this is the way that the cybercrime environment has evolved and continues to evolve. Right now, refunding, geez. You think about it, Gene, it started when I first saw it. It started back in around 2013, Evolution Marketplace. You saw people that were defrauding Amazon, and they were bragging about how much money they were making. No one believed them. And within 6 months, refund fraud really, it took over. It changed the dynamic of the way cybercrime is operated today. Now, beginning cybercriminals, they typically don't go toward credit card theft initially. They start with refunding fraud because you can profit immediately out of the gate. So that's the way it's changed. And that also lends into this whole cybercrime as a service environment, leads into the numbers of cybercriminals and how they're increasing almost exponentially year after year. You think about it. Shadow Crew ends 4,000 members. Alphabet 2017 ends 240,000 members. Black Market ends 2019 1.15 million members. Yeah, the numbers continue to explode. And it's because these crimes become easier and easier to commit.
Yeah, I know. And I tell you, what's really kind of unfair, right, is we're talking about a big cybersecurity labor shortage. And so, the security professionals are way outnumbered. And the fact that cybercrime as a service, can really get sort of Luddite or newbie fraudsters up and running very quickly. So that's why it's really important for companies to have a very good cybersecurity partner.
Well, and honestly, it gets worse than that, because now as the economy is 100% headed into recession, I mean, it's a done deal. We're getting there. So as it heads into a recession, depending on how bad that recession is, people are going to be placed under pressure. And when people are placed under pressure, you're going to have a certain percentage of those individuals that turn toward crime. And as cybercrime as a service, they can enter into that environment and be very profitable to the detriment of the companies that they're victimizing. What I say all the time is, hey, if you guys, any merchant retailer out there, e-com, whatever, if you want to have a talk with us, touch with us on at Arkose. Get up with me. We can talk about policies and procedures, talk about why refunding fraud is so successful, ways to mitigate that. We can talk about the use of bots in refunding fraud. A lot of people don't really think about, are these attacks automated? Well, parts of them are. You take one of these vendors that may get 200 orders a day. He can't manually handle 200 orders a day. So he has a set of bots up there that kind of do this kind of job for him. That's just one area that bots hit refunding fraud. So we're talking every single day about how criminals continue to refine their craft and become more efficient and more profitable at the end of the day. So please do get with us. You need to talk to Arkose.
So what do you think, just at a very high level, what do you think some of the security approaches are that companies should be, especially e-commerce companies and retailers, what they should be looking out for?
Gene, there's a few things, and I've been talking about, I was the first person that talked about refunding fraud. first person on the legal side that talked about it. They've been talking about it on the criminal side for a while before I came, got the legal side of things. But you can look at the payment instruments, for example. So when an individual first starts refunding fraud, they'll typically use their name, their address, their bank account, their credit card, their actual credit card number, and they'll tend to mine out every single thing that they can in their name. And then what will happen? Well, a lot of times they will switch over to gift cards. They'll switch over to prepaid debit cards. So it's important to pay attention to the payment instrument that's being used. It's also important to pay attention to OSINT, open source intelligence. Is that address actually attached to the individual who's placing the order? What's the history on the account? Is there different device info on the account? I mean, what is the history of the account? You got to look at everything across the board. These are important things. Also understand that if you're a company that's offering, say, instant refunds, that the only thing that you need is for that tracking label to be scanned by the shipping company in order to give the individual their money back, that means you're wide open for this type of fraud.
Right.
Fraudsters will come in and do that. So you have to be willing to look at the account, try to determine if it is potentially refunded fraud, and then slow things down. Because most fraudsters don't really stockpile cash. They'll commit a fraud, live off the proceeds of that one specific fraud, and as that dwindles down, they'll bankroll the next fraud with those remaining proceeds. So as a company, if you're slowing down the time it takes to give a fraudster their money back in a refund, they're going to find another target because they don't have any money coming in. They're going to look for the fastest cash, the easiest access that they possibly can. So it's important to understand your own policies and procedures. I can't tell you as well, and there's all kinds of stuff we can talk about. So again, do reach out to us. But there's also a problem with, I've seen a lot of retailers and merchants that give customer service the ability to simply refund massive amounts of money. I won't say any names, even though I could, but I won't. I'm a better man than that sometimes. But think about it. You hit a merchant and retailer, fraudster does, for a $30,000 order, where this merchant and retailer never has orders for that much, and a customer service rep, just one rep, is able to okay the refund. There's something wrong with that. There has to be checks and balances across the board. Someone needs to be overseeing that, viewing it, signing off on it, and okaying it. When you're trying to defraud one person, it's very easy. When you try to defraud multiple people, two or more, it becomes much more difficult for a fraudster to do. So those are just some of the ideas that we can talk about. There's a whole list of things we can go through to talk about mitigating refunding fraud, to talk about the bots that are on and hitting your site as well, because, hey, I promise they are. Ho, 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 he, ha, ha, ha.
They're the Grinch who stole Christmas, right? So
I love that show.
So you were talking and showed us some of the chatter that's going on out in the dark web. Have you seen the refunding fraud evolve and change much over the years, or is it really still the same type of attack?
It's the same type of attack, but the techniques have changed. Let me just explain that for a second. The techniques have always been there. The did not arrive, the empty box, the manipulating the tracking information, even the insider threat. Those things, those attack vectors have always been there. But what happens is as a merchant, as a victim, a company becomes used to one of the vectors, one of the excuses that a fraudster is using, fraudsters tend to pivot toward another one. So, most merchants and retailers got used to the did not arrive. That's one of the reasons that you see Amazon take pictures of the item that's left on your porch. Yes, we know it arrived. So fraudsters instead said, okay, yeah, it arrived, but it wasn't in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start weighing everything that goes out. Well, yeah, something was in the box, and you go like that. So then you pivot over toward faking tracking information. And that's a big one right now. It's very successful because a lot of return centers are not, they're third-party return centers. They're not actually the merchant retailers that's receiving things. So as the return center gets the item, they scan it in, looks fine. They don't even open the box sometimes, and the person gets their money back. And then, 6 weeks later, you find out, oh, it was fraud. You try to rebuild the individual, but they've closed down the account. So that's what happened. So now you've got the fake tracking information, and you've also got this insider threat of these packages being lost in transit. And I don't know about you, Gene. I do a lot of shopping during Christmas, and I typically have at least 2 packages that are really lost. No, I'm not paying for them to be lost. They're really lost. I don't do that stuff anymore, but other people do. So you know, it's a thing where these things have always been there. And this is one of the things that you've heard me talk about. It's not unknown vulnerabilities. It's not zero-day attacks. It's the stuff we know about that we've potentially been told about for years that causes the problems. These attack vectors have been here. They've just not been plugged. And since they've not been plugged, fraudsters just bounce over to them like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it seems like this type of fraud probably happens all year long, but really ramps up as we get into the holiday season, and even, you know, right after the holiday season. Is that right?
So typically, Christmas for fraudsters is mid-October through the first week of January.
Yeah.
At that point, for credit card thieves, for refund fraudsters, a lot of merchants' security is lifted at that point, because you see that, you know, the typical order history of an individual, it differs completely during Christmas season. You get out of area orders, you get new devices that are ordering, you get all these differences that go on. And because of that, we don't want to, you know, merchants and retailers don't want to cause friction to customers, so they lighten the security load. Well, fraudsters know that, and that's when fraudsters go in and they eat these merchants and retailers alive.
Yeah. So I'm glad, we're here to help during this season. And I appreciate your thoughts and insights. Really interesting. And that's we're going to come to a close. Any final thoughts?
Not a thought in this world in this head of mine. No, hey.
You shared some pretty good ones with us, Brett.
Stay safe out there. And again, please contact us. We'll have a nice sit down about refunding fraud and some of these other issues that are going on.
That sounds great. Thanks so much. See you next week, Brett.
See you later.